Welcome back. All right, so I'm doing something a little bit different today. Normally at this time of day, I'm doing like a news video on the hockey channel, but there's a couple things I wanted to talk about that are not hockey related. So on to the entertainment guy channel I go. I'm going to start off talking about WWE's merger with UFC. The more alarming part of this is that Vince McMahon now apparently is back in charge of creative. He is the chairman. He's got all his power back. With Vince in charge, the booking, I'm not a fan of the booking. And last night's Raw, I watched parts of it, and I noticed there was something that seemed a little different, and it makes sense. Vince being back in charge, it's going to change the booking. We're going to see all the big guys getting pushed again. By big guys, I just mean physically large, which doesn't make you a better wrestler, doesn't make you a better talker, or any of that, but that's just how that works. So I don't know how this is going to affect guys with expiring contracts. I don't know if this is going to put off some guys in AEW that were looking to jump ship. I know I've watched the last couple of AEW episodes. I've enjoyed them, but there's sort of a stale feel to AEW at this point that it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like there's any major stakes, and I don't know what that's from, but it just feels like, there's some great wrestling, there's some great wrestlers, but then it's kind of just done, and it doesn't feel like there's anything epic. Like watching WWE and the whole Bloodline thing, and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and all that. That was some pretty epic stuff. I don't expect AEW to be able to tell that story, but some of the stuff they're doing, like the whole Hangman coming back in the ambulance, it's cheesy. We know that doesn't work. We know that if you steal an ambulance, odds are you're going to get caught and tracked down. I don't recommend stealing an ambulance to anybody. So at any rate, it's odd. There are certain wrestlers I still absolutely love in AEW. I've been a Jamie Hayter fan for years. So now that everybody's jumped on and, oh yeah, we love Jamie. Oh, and now they do. But at any rate, I'm glad she's getting her due, and I think Britt's going to turn on her. I have a feeling Britt's going to turn heel and join the Outcasts. I keep wanting to say Outsiders, because that's the feel they have. I'm like, okay, so they're doing NWO. Cool. It's been 25 years. You could do it. And this goes back to territory days. Back in the old territory days, you could run the same storylines. I think Jim Cornette said it was like 5 years you could run the same storyline because you'd have a whole turnover in your audience. Something along those lines. So what they're doing is an old wrestling trope, which is repeating it. And even WCW was not the first one to do the NWO storyline. They just did it the biggest and in front of the largest audience. It was actually an idea that had first been done in Japan, and it worked. So Eric Bischoff brought it over. So the merger with UFC, I'm not sure how this is going to work, but I would imagine that the products will be kept mostly separate. Although if a WWE wrestler wants to have an actual fight, that may be allowed. And if a UFC fighter decides, I want to give WWE a shot, that'll probably be acceptable as well. So we'll see if it changes. Now, the other reason I wanted to do this video is, so I saw there was a new episode of Flash on Friday, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. Now, and I mean Friday on Netflix. That's when they release. And I just thought, no, I gotta wait. So yesterday I did it while I was on the treadmill, which means I had to stop the treadmill a few times because there's simple stuff about this that I feel like the writers have just kind of gone, it's the last season, who cares? It feels that way to me. And for a show called The Flash, there's not very much Flash. Grant Gustin is a supporting character now on a show where he is the title character. It really does lean into this fact that he's ready to not be the Flash anymore. Because last night it was all about Iris, and I kind of feel like when it's an Iris episode, it's sort of like, when you're watching Simpsons and you realize, oh, it's a Lisa episode. And you're like, do I have to watch this? Or now, the only episodes of Flash that I skip are the Grodd episodes. Those episodes, I can't do it. I cannot watch a Grodd episode. They're so dumb. But it's just, and the CGI is just so bad that it just takes me right out of the moment and whatever tension they're trying to build. But I really think it's the whole thing last night didn't make a whole lot of sense. Or yesterday, I should say, didn't make a whole lot of sense. I was trying to figure out, okay, so you have the Dreamer, and I'd forgotten she existed. So they keep bringing back these characters from the previous seasons. But yeah, I've forgotten they exist. And so she's dreaming and she's having a nightmare, and there's this figure that's behind her, scary figure, and then Iris is there, and Iris has to help her. They don't really establish why, and they don't get into why Iris ultimately is even involved at all. It's just sort of the dreamer takes this girl to Iris, and then they both get put to sleep where they have dreams. And then their body temperature goes up to 105.9. So what do you do when somebody's running a fever? Nope. 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 Flash showed us what you do. You put a bunch of little thingies on their head, and you just leave them fully clothed, and you lay them on a surface, bed or whatever, recliner, and you just leave them there. You don't put a blanket on them, and whatever you do, don't get ice, because I kept yelling, you need ice, because you got to get that core temperature down. They're going to have potential brain damage. And the whole time I was like, okay, why are we doing this at the lab? Okay, so Gideon said this, and why didn't Gideon say get the ice? Ice. Come on. Nope. And so I even paused the episode to go and ask Yvonne, what do you do when somebody's running a high fever? She's like, well, cold cloths, compresses, maybe a cold bath. And I'm like, you're a heck of a lot smarter than the writers on The Flash. So I just, the whole episode was just, and I couldn't understand. It was like, okay, so we're in a dream and we're overheating because our body realizes we can't get out of it, and we could end up in a coma forever. And I'm like, okay, none of that makes any sense. Not even a little. Not even a bit. And then Mark leaves, and Mark's going on a journey. He's they should have done a little as hobo music with him. Or they could have done like the Bruce Banner music from the Hulk. I'm really aging myself. But, the Incredible Hulk TV series, had D, at the end of the episode. And you see Bruce Banner walking down the road after whatever destruction he and the Hulk had created in their last home. And it just, I didn't understand, like, oh, well, he thinks he wants Keone to be Frost. Okay. Oh, yeah, right, yeah, okay, so, so he leaves, and Keone is sad, the former Caitlyn, she's sad. So every item of food on the table, because they were about to eat this feast, because apparently they're going to have a feast every week now, whatever, and now Cecile's happy, even though her husband and her kid aren't there, but apparently that's just fine. I don't understand. I mean, I understand that the actor who played Iris's dad wanted out of the show and wanted to just have a recurring role, but I don't understand that character at all. I don't get it. We're gonna have a feast. Well, we can invite Joe. Nah, he's a town over. So what are we gonna do? It's not like we have Flash here that could run, pick him up, and bring him back in 5 seconds. So I don't know. But Keone comes in and she has a sad. Now, we haven't figured out what her superpowers are yet, but sometimes we have and sometimes we haven't, but it's her emotions or whatever. And so because she's sad, all of the champagne in the champagne glasses freezes, and all the food on the table freezes. And I thought, okay, I understand the visual you're going for, but if her sadness makes everything in the room freeze, all of her friends are dead. Like, or it means she's channeled this energy into all the food they were about to eat, which means she's kind of a prick. So I saw that and I was like, okay, so she does have frost powers. No, because this is stupid. No, frost powers weren't stupid. I don't understand. The whole thing. Like, I mean, the liquid freezes in the cup. And they just look at him thinking, now, wouldn't the glass be cold? Apparently not. And yet, it's so remarkably cold that you can see it just... I found the whole thing odd and off-putting. I don't know. And ironic, because where was that ice earlier? If only she was sad that people were, passed out and potentially going into a coma and overheating at 105.9. Why didn't that make her sad or make her feel something? I do hope that this means that when she's happy, things are lighting on fire. Because otherwise, her powers don't make any sense. So when she's sad, things are cold. When she's happy, things explode. So you're just trying to keep her even. The whole rest of the series just be people trying to keep her even keeled. Give her flowers and whatever plants, and she can cut, like, she do some botany. Just keep her away from. You can't have her out there because she gets upset and suddenly buildings explode. So yeah, odd. Anyways, I also wanted to say too, as I do get asked here and there what I've been watching, and Yvonne and I have been watching. We're almost caught up on this season of Hell's Kitchen. We're into the first half of the finale. We've got that done. So we're going into the second half of the finale. We'll finish that off tonight. We also watched Next Level Chef because Chef Ramsay shows are fun and ridiculous. As we said in a live stream last week, the fact that on Next Level Chef you could be eliminated not for making a bad dish, but because you don't get it on the ramp in 30 seconds. Like, that's so weird to me that it's a cooking show. It's about being a good chef, but you can get eliminated for not getting your dish onto the tray fast enough. And I can't think of where that would be an actual thing. I can't think of a situation where that would be an actual thing. Like, I know there's ticket times when you're doing all that too, because we watched Bar Rescue and that was talking about ticket times. But yeah, I just find that concept really weird, especially when it's like, oh, this is delicious, but she didn't get it on there in time, so you're going in the elimination challenge. Wait, what? So he's a good chef. He did a really good job, but he didn't quite make the 30-second window, so he could get eliminated. What is this show? This show's called Next Level Chef, not Next Level Jogging. Anyways, and then there's the dating shows, which are ridiculous. And there's like 3 different ones I'm watching right now, and they're all absolutely insane. What I've noticed is that now we're to the point where people are being recycled through these shows. Now, I remember 25 years ago, there were so many of those Jerry Springer type shows that people would basically have a talent agency that sends them to different shows. You might be on Springer one day, you might be on Ricky Lake the next week, you might be on, I want to say Morton Downey Jr., but I think Morton Downey Jr. was already off the air before some of these. Well, you guys know what I mean. Like, and it feels like with the dating shows, it's the same thing. That maybe there's a pool of people, and it's like, all right, so these are people. And the funny thing is, Yvonne and I were talking too when we were getting into one of them last night, and we were debating about how they pick these people, and I said I really think it's volatile personality. If you are argumentative, if you're difficult, if you're arrogant, you have a better chance of getting onto these shows because you don't want to have a cast where everybody's getting along. And there are definitely a couple of red flags I saw in one of the ones we started the other night. And I would be fine with us reviewing all the ones we've watched and trying to keep it all straight. But yeah, there's a couple of red flags that this is designed to not just create discord and dislike between people, but it seems to be created to create bona fide almost fights. And like they're almost daring these people to fight with each other. So it's weird. The other thing too that I've noticed is that on the cooking shows, and especially the Ramsay ones, they pick people with those personalities too. Whereas the baking shows, there's no drama. There's no drama on the baking shows. So cooking shows there is, but baking shows there isn't. It's weird. It's really, really odd to me. The baking ones are fun to watch too. Great British Bake Off is a fantastic one. Canadian ones are really, really good as well. And so there's that. So there you go. That's what I've been watching on TV lately. I'd like to thank you for witnessing my latest breakdown over the Flash. Remember, boys and girls, if somebody's running a fever of 105.9, which I'm pretty sure could be lethal. At any rate, if somebody's running a fever that high, just lay them down on a surface and just stick probes on their head so you can see what their vitals are, so you can panic when their vitals are out of control. But do nothing about it. And whatever you do, don't find a doctor, don't find a nurse. Just hook them up and just let your robot tell, like Gideon, tell you what to do, because I just don't understand. I will say that I hope Candace Patton, after all these years as playing Iris on this show, I hope she finds a really good show for herself coming out of this, because I think she's a really good actress. She hasn't had a lot to work with, and I think she's kind of fantastic. I hated Iris the first 2 seasons on the show. Couldn't stand her. I still don't really like the character as much, but I've grown to really like the actress that's behind the character. And the character's not as aggravating as she was in the beginning. but sometimes it's close. All right, there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Thanks for attending my TED Talk and my breakdown. I had to do this, and I there's other hockey stuff I want to talk about, but I'm like, no, I got to talk about Flash. I got to talk about WWE because I know there would be people who would be wondering what I would think of that, and I think it's too bad because I've been trying to get back into watching it, and with the playoffs coming up in the NHL, I'll have more time to watch it. But last night's episode, I was like, oh, this is how Raw's going to be. I'm out. I can't do this again where it's all talking and no wrestling. But anyways, there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, especially if you didn't know I talked about things other than hockey. Thanks again for all your support. I will talk to you guys soon.